Hello everybody, this is Daniel from Equidam and we're here today with a new video. This is going to be about what is business valuation, but also we're here today with a new series. We're going to share what we learned in the past 5 years about valuation. I hope the actual story makes sense and hopefully get you to a pretty good knowledge of business valuation in a way that you can understand its principles, use it for your business, use it for your deals, and use it for your future. So the first thing to take into account when you think about valuation is the difference between market value and fair value. Market value is the actual price of the transaction. Say you're selling the company, say you're raising capital, what's the valuation, what's the price of that transaction? The actual price of the transaction depends on who's the buyer and who's the seller and what are the specific advantages to those two companies. On top of that, it actually relies on the specifics of the deal. The fair value of a company is actually the value that it would have in a liquid and reasonably informed market. Obviously, liquid and informed markets don't exist, at least at the private company level, but when you do the valuation calculation, so you try to estimate how much a company is worth, that is generally what you're looking at. After you've calculated the fair value of the company, you actually go into the specifics of a certain deal and you see if it makes sense, if it should be higher, if it should be lower, if the specific buyer has a specific advantage that increases what he's willing to pay, or if you as a seller actually want to get more or want to get less. Fair value is what is used in valuing public companies. There is a very liquid market, there's a lot of investors, there's a lot of information shared. When you get into private companies, you have less and less of that market, and so you look more and more into trying to estimate fair value, but it becomes harder and harder as the market is less liquid and less informed. From Dublin. Hello, this is Daniel. When you talk about a private transaction, you not only have stuff about the specific company and the specific buyer, you also have things about the specific deal. We're talking about liquidation preferences, we're talking about buyer's rights, we're talking about what is going to happen after the deal, are the employees going to stay in? All these kind of things actually come into play when you determine the market value. They don't come into play when you determine the fair value. And that's why the fair value is the one calculated and then the market value is the outcome of a deal. There's something else to keep into account, which is the actual explanation of the valuation has to be understandable. If the deal is about transparency, then the valuation itself, the valuation process and the valuation calculation has to be transparent as well. And that's really what we want to teach you with these videos. That's really like the principles behind it, the intuitions behind it. So you can negotiate your own deal, you can do your own estimations, you can do a lot of things, and you can actually really understand where valuation comes from. Because valuation and understanding the value of your company actually has a lot of implications. Implications like choosing between debt and equity. How do you know if you should raise capital via debt or if you should raise capital via equity if you don't have even an idea of what's the value of the company, right? The value of the company is going to determine the amount of shares and the stake in the company that you're going to give away for equity. While on debt, that doesn't really matter because debt at the same time has its own set of risks. It can actually really bankrupt you. A bank can ask for your bankruptcy if you don't pay the interest. So understanding the value of your company, the valuation, how the value grows, has a lot of implications on this and also has a lot of implications on your personal liquidity. Think about your exit, think about the percentage of shares that you have or that your employees have. These are really important considerations. And that's why valuation and growing your value, the value of your company, should be considered into your strategy. It's going to determine how you can hire, it's going to determine what's your final percentage of shares, the dilution that the employees are going to have, that former investors are going to have. At the same time, if you're considering selling your company either now or in the future, it's still good to estimate your valuation, get a grip on it, maybe improve the things that you can improve. Otherwise, the future buyer might actually buy the company for a lower price than what it's worth. And that would leave money on the table for you just because you don't know. It's true. So this is just a glimpse about fair value, market value, their difference, and like really just a start of what we're gonna talk about in this video series. Next video is probably gonna be about valuation methods and approaches. So I'll see you then, right? And I say right, really say right all the time.